Parenthood is the latest series by BBC Earth, and it's all about how animals raise their young. So this first episode's kind of an intro. We don't get like an amazing introduction by Attenborough. It's very low-key, which I think is interesting. I feel like this series is going to feel very low-key. The fact that there wasn't even a trailer for the series before it came out already suggests that. But this episode opens up with a female Western lowland gorilla and her recently born young. It doesn't really show you a huge amount. It's basically just her cradling her young. It's very nice, and Amber does a good job of just highlighting the various struggles that she's going to have to go through with her young. As I say, it's a very low-key way of opening the episode and the series as a whole, but it was quite good. It worked for me. I quite liked it. And the first major bit of footage we get is to do with lions. We see a pride of lions in the Okavango Delta. It's obviously females and they're young, they're having to cross the water, it's interesting, and we watch the females take on a buffalo. Now this was very, very similar to what we got in Planet Earth 2. It was almost a shot-for-shot recreation, in a way, and it was alright, it was definitely good. And I think because it was so similar, I couldn't help but compare it to what I got in Planet Earth 2, and I definitely preferred that. Also, you can tell that it got pretty gruesome because the camera almost cuts away to the lions sort of moving in towards the kill. That tells me they filmed something a lot more upsetting. And while I appreciate they obviously don't want to show really gory stuff on telly, you basically skipped from the lions battling with the buffalo to then just them feeding on it, and there wasn't really any in between. You didn't really get a sense of how they actually brought this animal down, because it did look like it was a pretty even fight. So I would like to see a bit more of how the lions actually brought down the buffalo. The most interesting part of that, though, was for me, was when one of the lionesses actually died because she was gored by the buffalo, and her cubs are there, and they're like, what do we do? And Amber says, obviously the cubs are going to be fine, because other females look after them. That's a side of lion behaviour I don't think gets explored a lot. In a series called Parenthood, that is a type of behaviour that I would like to see explored, and I'm glad they did, so that was good. And then we see boxer crabs, a very different type of animal, and they're an animal on the reefs in Indonesia, I think it was. And we see this one crab, she's got her eggs, and she's got these two anemones in her claws to deter predators. Like we see a cuttlefish going for her, and she's able to bat it off. But we see that there's competition, another female steals her anemones, but she's able to actually tear the anemone she has left apart. So basically clone it. I don't know if it is quite the same as cloning, but certainly you've doubled what you had before. And that was quite interesting. Again, it wasn't a sequence I was like, okay, that's going to be great. But it was interesting, I actually did enjoy that. And then we see burrowing owls in Arizona. You see this one pair, they're looking for a new burrow. The male finds one, the female inspects it. She's not that impressed, but she'll make do with it. It's quite funny. And we see they're able to raise some chicks, they've got them in their burrow, but then a roadrunner comes along, and it's likely to actually take the chicks, which is very interesting. The chicks actually are able to create a noise that's similar to a rattlesnake, but unfortunately, roadrunners actually eat rattlesnakes as well. So the parents come along and scare the roadrunner away, and it's fine. And the roadrunner being a predator of the owl chicks, I didn't really know about, so that was interesting. And then we go back to Africa. Here we see when the waterholes dry up, we've got a lot of hippos, and hippos have got to travel quite a far distance to get some food. Because it's a lot drier, there isn't as much food around the water. And we see this one female hippo and her calf, they've got to get out at night to look for food, and it's a very eerie atmosphere. It's all in infrared. There's all these other animals around, like hyenas and servals, that just look a bit creepy in infrared, and they're feeding, and it's very ominous. And we see a pride of lions that look like they're stalking it. At first I was a bit like, are the lions actually stalking the hippos? Realistically, every shot was from the hippos and then the lions. You didn't see them together at all. It kind of felt like, is this the case? Is this what's really happening? But then when you see that one shot of the male lion approaching the hippos, I was like, okay, maybe this is happening. This is going to be really interesting. There's a male hippo, he comes along to kind of, boost their safety in numbers, and the lions just go for them. It is pretty intense. You can always assume that hippos are pretty much like a no-go for lions, but then lions do take elephants in some situations, and obviously buffalo. You can still see how lions probably would be able to tackle them. And we see them chase the hippos, properly out of shot. You don't really see them, but you hear a lot of scuffling, and you see that they actually managed to bring down the male. You'd have thought the calf would be the more easy option. However, I guess the male hippo was a bit skittish, and it's going to be a bigger meal for them, so that's interesting. The start of the sequence was a bit like, okay, it's eerie, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere. But when it actually did obviously pick up, I was really interested, and it was probably one of the best parts of the episode for me. I really liked that. And then we see social spiders. So the social spiders were an animal that I've heard of, I've never really seen on the telly before, I don't think. And it was really good. You see this one female, she's got loads of young, and she secretes this stuff from her mouth that feeds them, and that's all fine, but she obviously looks like she's getting weaker. We see the other social spiders are able to catch food, and it is actually pretty nightmarish watching all these social spiders in their nest just going for a grasshopper. It's pretty creepy. As someone who doesn't mind spiders, is totally fine with them, who's never suffered from arachnophobia, and has seen many films like, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, Harry Potter, all these things with the really giant creepy spider sequences. This was actually pretty unsettling. And then at the end you see the female, she's really struggling, she's really weak, and at this point she basically just sacrifices herself to feed her offspring, and even that is pretty unsettling as well, watching all the young spiders crawling towards her and eventually just attacking her. Fair enough, that's what they do. The female's obviously nursing her young, and I did know that, I knew that happened. However, what I didn't know was that when all the spiderlings are finished feeding on their mother, they then just eat all the other members of the colony. That was a lot more unsettling. You feel like with a mother, at least she's given up her life to, help her young. The other spiders were just kind of, there, and they're just getting attacked and killed by all the young spiders. Pretty horrible. That was a really, really interesting sequence. I really liked that. Didn't expect it. It was really creepy, really sinister, and yeah, it's definitely something I think I'll remember more from anything else in this episode. And then we see the gorillas again. It's fine. I kind of thought this was going to be the end of the episode, but it wasn't. We basically see what's implied to be the same mother again, this time with her young, a lot older, and she's kind of looking at her options. Does she stay with the troop? Does she not? The silverback male, he's a lot older now, but he's still kind of got it. It was actually quite funny where she's just assessing him. You see her just tilting this leaf away to look at him, zooms in on his body, then tilts it back, and she eventually decides to stay, but it does paint a picture of how it's kind of difficult. You know, if she leaves, she'll have to give up her young, she'll have to try and establish herself in a new territory. The male she's got now is security. It's kind of interesting. You can kind of relate it to humans a little bit, how you see a lot of people that do stay with other people out of security rather than, you know, the excitement anymore. I think that was interesting. You could definitely see the similarities between animals and humans in that sequence, and I think that's something this series, I hope, does well. We talk about how a lot of the world's obviously developed by humans. There isn't a lot of space for nature left, and we see this one family of Iberian lynx, and they're living in this barn. In fact, there's quite a few families living there, and they're all related, but they're all there. And we see this one farmer that's basically managed his land to kind of make it appeal to animals, so the Iberian lynx do have a refuge there. That was good. It was a nice way of ending the episode. And then we see the diaries. It's all about the people filming the gorillas. It's alright. I would say it's more about the trackers. We spent a lot of time with the trackers looking for the gorillas, and it was good just getting an insight into their lives. That was cool. So yeah, this episode is good. It's a good episode. It's good opening to the series. It's got some good sequences in there. I think the highlights for me were definitely the social spiders and the hippos. Everything else was pretty good though. I'm looking forward to the rest of the series. So yeah, let me know in the comments below what you thought of this episode. What were your highlights? Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, as ever, feel free to like, comment and subscribe, or don't if you don't want to. It's perfectly fine. I'll be doing the next one next week, which I believe is all about the oceans, so should be good. I like ocean episodes. Yeah, I'll see you next time, and goodbye.